Welcome aboard the Nightingale Express, a dreamy train ride through the quiet landscapes of the night. As the gentle rhythm of the tracks soothes your mind, let this cozy journey carry you into deep relaxation. Wrapped in warmth, with the soft glow of lanterns and the misty scenery outside your window, you are safe, calm, and at peace. Breathe in the tranquility. Let go of the day's worries and allow yourself to drift effortlessly into sleep. The station was wrapped in a hush so deep, it felt as if the world itself was holding its breath. The only sounds were the distant hoot of an owl and the occasional rustling of leaves in the gentle night breeze. A thick mist curled around the platform, moving in slow, lazy tendrils, as if reluctant to leave. It swirled around the iron benches, drifted past the tall wooden pillars, and wrapped itself around the wheels of the waiting train, like a ghostly embrace. The warm glow of old-fashioned lanterns cast long, flickering shadows across the worn wooden planks, their golden light barely piercing the heavy night air. A subtle blend of scents filled the platform. The crisp coolness of the night, the earthy musk of damp wood, and the faintest trace of coal smoke, rich and nostalgic. But beneath it all lingered something sweeter, something almost intangible, as if the very air held whispers of stories, told in hushed voices, of goodbyes and reunions, of journeys taken and yet to come. The Nightingale Express stood in quiet anticipation, its deep blue carriages polished to a soft gleam, under the watchful gaze of the stars. The intricate gold detailing along its edges shimmered, giving the impression that the train had been painted with the dust of constellations. Its windows, glowing with a warm amber light, hinted at the promise of comfort within. A world of soft cushions, plush seats, and the steady, soothing rhythm of a train bound for dreams. Wisps of steam hissed from beneath the engine, curling upwards before dissolving into the night, vanishing like fleeting thoughts drifting toward slumber. The massive iron wheels, dark and silent for now, seemed to hum with quiet energy, waiting for the signal that would set them in motion. Somewhere within the train's belly, a deep, rhythmic ticking echoed, a sound that felt less like machinery and more like the steady heartbeat of a living thing, waiting patiently for its passengers to step aboard and surrender to the journey ahead. A lone traveller emerged from the mist, their figure barely visible beneath the folds of a thick, cozy blanket draped over their shoulders. Their footsteps were soft against the wooden platform, each step deliberate, unhurried, as though time itself had loosened its grip on this quiet, midnight world. There was no rush, no urgency, only the slow, dreamlike movement of someone who had left the worries of the waking world behind. The glow from the train's windows cast a golden shimmer across the platform, illuminating the traveller's face in soft, flickering light. The warmth beckoned them forward, a silent invitation wrapped in the promise of comfort and escape. A gentle breeze whispered through the station, carrying with it the faint scent of lavender and something else, perhaps the distant memory of faraway places, the remnants of stories carried by passengers long gone. As the traveller drew closer, a subtle shift in the air made them pause. The nearest carriage door, tall and elegant with its polished brass handle, swung open with a slow, creaking sigh. It wasn't an eerie sound, but rather a quiet, knowing gesture, as if the train itself had sensed their arrival and was offering safe passage into its embrace. A faint breath of warmth drifted from within, carrying the scent of aged wood, freshly steeped tea, and the softest hint of vanilla. The traveler hesitated for only a moment, fingers tightening around the edges of their blanket. Then, with a deep, steadying breath, they stepped forward, crossing the threshold into a world that felt as if it had been waiting for them all along. Inside, the train felt like a world apart from the cool stillness of the station. A haven of warmth and comfort. It wrapped around the traveler like a soft embrace. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and a hint of something sweet, perhaps cinnamon, or the lingering trace of a forgotten cup of tea. Plush velvet seats, deep and inviting, lined the walls, their dark fabric catching the glow of vintage lamps that cast a dreamy golden light over every surface. Ornate luggage racks gleamed overhead, and delicate brass fixtures reflected tiny pinpricks of light, like distant stars scattered across the night. The steady hum of the engine, low and rhythmic, pulsed through the floor beneath their feet, a quiet heartbeat that seemed to sync with their own. It was a sound that belonged to old memories, to childhood dreams of endless journeys and faraway places. The traveler moved slowly, almost reverently, their fingers grazing the polished wood of a nearby table, the soft fabric of the seatbacks, as if reassuring themselves that this was real, that they had truly stepped into this quiet, floating world of midnight magic. Choosing a seat by the window, they sank into its embrace, pulling their blanket tighter around their shoulders. The glass was cool beneath their fingertips as they traced the faint outlines of mist curling beyond the train. Outside, the world was blurred and shifting, shapes dissolving into the swirling fog, as though reality itself had softened at the edges. The distant glow of the station lamps flickered like fireflies, their light growing dimmer with every passing moment. A soft, shuddering sigh escaped from deep within the train, a gentle exhale as it prepared to depart. Then came the whistle, a long, low note that echoed into the quiet night, its call both soothing and full of promise. With a near-silent grace, the train began to move. There was no lurch, no jolt, only the smooth, gliding motion of wheels slipping into their timeless rhythm. The platform began to drift away, its wooden beams and flickering lanterns swallowed by the ever-deepening mist. The traveler watched as the last traces of the station faded, vanishing like a dream dissolving upon waking. And then, there was only the night, the train, and the journey ahead. Outside the window, the world unfolded like a shifting dream, its edges soft and blurred by the silver mist that rolled across the landscape. Rolling hills stretched endlessly, their gentle slopes bathed in moonlight, fading into the distance like waves frozen in time. Trees stood tall and unmoving, their dark silhouettes standing against the vast sky, their leaves shimmering faintly as if they carried whispers of ancient secrets. Some stood alone, quiet sentinels keeping watch over the sleeping earth, while others clustered together, their branches entwined as if sharing silent stories in the night. Now and then, a flicker of golden light broke through the darkness, a tiny cluster of glowing windows nestled among the hills. Villages, hidden in the folds of the land, slumbered beneath the watchful gaze of the stars. The traveler imagined the peaceful lives unfolding within those warm-lit homes. Families tucked beneath thick blankets, candles flickering low, the distant hush of lullabies whispered to children already lost in their dreams. These tiny glimpses of life, fleeting and delicate, felt like scattered embers in the vast sea of the night. Letting out a slow breath, the traveler melted into their seat, feeling their bodies sink into the deep cushions. The train swayed gently, its movement slow and steady, a rocking cradle guiding them toward rest. The rhythmic click-clack of the wheels against the tracks was hypnotic. A soft and steady song played by the rails, a lullaby composed by the night itself. Each turn of the wheels, each quiet shudder of the carriage, whispered a promise of peace, of comfort, of a journey that stretched beyond time and into the realm of dreams. As the train pressed forward into the deepening night, the world outside took on an otherworldly beauty, shifting like the edges of a fading dream. The mist thickened, swirling in ghostly tendrils that curled and danced around the passing landscape, as though the clouds themselves had sunk to the earth, wrapping the land in a hushed embrace. Through the silvery veil, dark shapes began to emerge. Mountains, ancient and vast, their jagged peaks crowned in soft moonlight. They stood like silent sentinels, watching over the world below with an air of quiet wisdom, their forms half lost in the ever-shifting fog. A river wound its way through the valley, a ribbon of deep blue that glowed faintly in the darkness. Its surface rippled gently, catching the moon's reflection like liquid silver, stretching and shimmering with each bend and curve. The traveler found themselves mesmerized by its hypnotic flow, feeling as if the river itself was carrying dreams along its current, sweeping them towards some unknown, distant place. Then, from somewhere beyond the mist, a sound arose, a long, low whistle, deep and melodic, carrying across the still night air. But it was not the voice of the Nightingale Express. The traveller sat up, a flicker of curiosity stirring within them. They leaned closer to the window, fingertips brushing the cool glass, eyes scanning the horizon. Through the swirling fog, another train materialized, gliding soundlessly on a parallel track. It was unlike any train the traveller had ever seen, its carriages sleek and shimmering, the entire length of it appearing to be woven from pure silver light. Its windows glowed with a pale, ethereal radiance, casting an almost ghostly glow against the mist. The wheels made no sound, no clatter against the rails, as though it moved not on steel and iron, but upon some invisible path carved through the night itself. For a moment, the two trains travelled side by side, sharing the same stretch of midnight. The traveller watched, spellbound, as shadowy figures moved behind the glowing windows of the mysterious train. Who were they? Where was it going? And why did it feel as though this train had appeared just for them? As if it, too, had been waiting. The silver train glided beside them with an eerie grace, its presence almost otherworldly. It moved without sound, its wheels barely seeming to touch the tracks, as though it floated just above them, carried by some unseen force. The traveller strained to see inside, searching for a glimpse of a passenger, a conductor, any sign of life within. But there was nothing, only the warm gleam of lanterns casting a soft, wavering glow against the misted glass. The carriages stretched on, each one identical in their shimmering brilliance, their reflections dancing across the river below like ripples of moonlight. For a brief moment, it felt as though the two trains were bound together, twin vessels travelling the same path through the quiet night. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, their forms gliding through the landscape in seamless harmony. Then, as if the mist itself had claimed it, the silver train began to dissolve, its edges softened, the bright windows dimming as they faded into the fog. Within seconds, it was gone, leaving nothing behind. Not even the whisper of wheels upon the track. The traveller blinked, their breath catching slightly. Had it been real, or had their tired mind conjured it from the depths of the night? They pressed a palm against the cool glass of the window, searching the endless stretch of mist for any lingering trace of what they had seen. But the landscape was still once more unchanged, as though the silver train had never existed at all. The Nightingale Express rumbled forward, unconcerned, its steady rhythm unbroken. The warm interior of the carriage wrapped around the traveller like a gentle embrace, anchoring them in the present. The air inside was thick with comfort, the faint scent of old books, the soft creak of the wooden panels, the ever-present lull of the train's motion. The golden light from the vintage lamps flickered slightly, their glow swaying in time with the gentle rocking of the carriage, casting long, shifting shadows against the walls. A deep sense of tranquility settled over the traveller. The questions that had momentarily stirred their mind began to melt away, sinking into the quiet peace of the journey. Their eyelids grew heavy, their body nestling deeper into the plush seat. The warmth of the blanket around their shoulders, the rhythmic sound of the wheels, the hush of the world outside, all of it wove together into a perfect lullaby, luring them ever closer to the realm of dreams. The traveller sat up slightly, rubbing the sleep from their eyes as they took in the sight before them. Moonhaven's stop was unlike any station they had ever seen. It seemed untouched by time, its wooden beams polished by years of quiet youth, its platform edged with flower boxes overflowing with pale, luminescent blooms. The petals shimmered under the lamplight, their glow so gentle it was as if they held the essence of the moon itself. A delicate mist clung to the ground, curling around the lantern posts and weaving between the wooden benches, giving the entire place an ethereal, dreamlike quality. Despite the stillness, the station did not feel abandoned. There was a presence to it, an unseen energy that hummed beneath the quiet, as though it were waiting, watching. The traveller peered out of the window, half expecting to see someone emerge from the mist. But the platform remained empty. The only movement came from the gentle sway of the flowers in a non-existent breeze. Then, the sound came again. The soft chime of a bell, ringing once, twice, and then fading into silence. It was not the sharp, metallic clang of a station bell, but something softer, almost like wind chimes stirred by a passing breath of air. The traveller's fingers curled around their blanket as a strange yet peaceful feeling settled over them. The doors of the Nightingale Express remained open, as if inviting someone or something aboard. And yet no one stepped forward. There were no hurried footsteps, no hushed whispers of travellers saying their goodbyes. The train simply waited, unhurried, content in its pause beneath the silver moonlight. Minutes passed, though time felt strange here, stretched and fluid like a dream. And then, just as quietly as it had arrived, the train gave a soft, shuddering sigh. The doors closed with a hushed click, and the engine let out a low, melodic hum. Slowly, gently, the Nightingale Express began to move once more, gliding away from Moonhaven's stop as the mist rolled in behind it, swallowing the station in its silken embrace. The traveller released a breath they hadn't realised they'd been holding. Had they truly seen the station? Or had it been another trick of the night? As the lanterns of Moonhaven's stop faded into the distance, its bell no longer ringing, a deep drowsiness settled over them again. Perhaps it didn't matter whether the station had been real or not. Perhaps some places were meant to be seen only in passing, glimpsed for a moment, then lost to the dream of the journey. The train moved forward, its wheels gliding effortlessly along the tracks, the soft hum of the engine blending with the lingering notes of the mysterious lullaby. The traveller remained still, their gaze fixed on the fields beyond the window, watching as the rippling waves of blue and violet flowers stretched endlessly into the misty horizon. The fireflies continued their gentle dance, drifting in slow, hypnotic patterns, as if bidding the train farewell. As the station disappeared into the distance, the melody faded, dissolving into the hush of the night. The traveller let out a quiet sigh, a deep sense of tranquility settling over them. There was something magical about this journey, something unlike any other they had taken before. It was as if the Nightingale Express moved not just through space, but through the fabric of dreams themselves, slipping between moments of reality and something far more ephemeral. The gentle rocking of the carriage, the rhythmic clatter of the tracks, and the ever-present warmth of the train's golden lamplight wrapped the traveller in comfort. Their eyes fluttered shut for a moment, sleep tugging at the edges of their consciousness. But just before they could surrender to slumber, a soft rustling sound drew their attention back to the window. Through the thinning mist, a new landscape was unfolding. The rolling fields gave way to a dense, ancient forest, its towering trees stretching toward the sky like silent guardians of the night. The leaves shimmered with a strange luminescence, their edges glowing faintly as though they had captured the light of 1,000 stars. Silver mist wove between the trunks, curling around the roots like a living thing. And from somewhere deep within the woods, the distant hoot of an owl echoed softly. The traveller pressed their fingertips lightly against the glass, captivated by the beauty of the night-shrouded forest. This place felt untouched, sacred in a way that words could not capture. A world that only those who travelled the quiet tracks of the Nightingale Express would ever witness. And yet, just like everything else on this journey, it would soon pass, slipping away into the endless dream of the night. The traveller sank deeper into their seat, their breath slowing, their body surrendering to the weightlessness of sleep. The train's motion was a gentle cradle, rocking them in time with the rhythmic click-clack of the wheels against the tracks. Outside, the shimmering lakes reflected not just the stars, but the soft glow of the train's windows, as if the journey itself had been etched into the fabric of the night. The hills rose and fell like waves in a vast, endless ocean of dreams, their silver-lit slopes whispering secrets only the night could understand. The warmth of the carriage wrapped around the traveller like a thick, comforting blanket, the golden glow of the vintage lamps flickering softly, casting delicate patterns against the velvet seats. The faint scent of aged wood and distant rain lingered in the air, blending with the quiet hush of the world beyond the glass. Somewhere, deep in the heart of the train, a soft chime rang, a sound neither intrusive nor urgent, but one that simply reassured that all was well, that the journey would continue as it always had, slipping through time and dream alike. Their breathing deepened, their thoughts drifting like the mist outside, dissolving into the quiet vastness of the night. The train, steady and sure, carried them forward, beyond valleys of slumber, through forests of silver leaves, past glowing rivers and moonlit fields, The world outside was endless, a landscape woven from the threads of dreams, existing only for those who travelled its path. As the last fragments of wakefulness faded, the traveller knew, in some distant corner of their mind, that this journey was eternal. The Nightingale Express would always be there, waiting in the hush of midnight, ready to carry dreamers across the quiet expanse of night. And with that final peaceful thought, they drifted into a deep and restful sleep, cradled by the lull of the train, safe in the embrace of the ever-moving dream. The Nightingale Express continues its journey through the endless dreamscape, but for now, you have arrived at the station of rest. Let the gentle hum of the train and the soft whisper of the night carry you deeper into peaceful slumber. Thank you for traveling with Calm Night Azamar. May your dreams be filled with serenity, and may you wake refreshed and renewed. Sleep well and good night.